I saw there's this guy on YouTube I follow a little bit. His name's Graham Stephen, right here, as you can see. He's a millennial millionaire who's made his millions. He's just barely 30, but he's made his millions in real estate in California. And he recently released a video about a month ago that you can see here. I'll link to it in the description, why I stopped buying real estate. And he's right, what he said. As someone who owns property in the US, who follows the US market, as well as owning property in Ecuador, I can tell you, he's absolutely right on his points, but I'm going to give him another option today on what he should consider to diversify his portfolio that he hasn't thought of yet, or at least hasn't mentioned in his videos, the ones that I've seen, especially this one here. So, I mean, he mentioned that he wanted to stop buying real estate in the US, basically for three reasons he gave. But the first one, due to the almost zero interest rates and record low inventories and sky high prices. The first point he gave for not being interested in U.S. property right now is because of just the lack of deals. He likes to buy things that are deals, which we all do, something below market in premium areas that he can rent for a decent price, right? And maybe a fixer upper. But there's just nothing available right now. And the two markets that I follow in the States is the same thing. Southwest Montana, where I own property, and the Cleveland, Ohio area where I'm from, where I also own a little bit of property. So, anyway, he also mentioned he wants to diversify his portfolio, and explained how he plans to do it. And he also said, time value for money. He's got other things going on. Real estate kind of takes a lot of time. So let's take a look. When you start looking at international real estate, um, you really don't have as many options as you think as maybe a North American investor. Like Europe, I mean, they're on the euro, the dollar's falling again, everything's in euros. The prices in most of Europe are not that much better than in North America, if better at all. Um, Asia, Middle East, places I have visited and lived. In most of these places, foreigners literally cannot own outright in their name, right? Which is a huge negative for most of us, if not all of us. Africa is not, maybe a wonderful place to live, but still probably several years away from actually being a place where foreigners actually want to come, and retail investors, and invest and buy a second home. I think it's still a ways away. South America and Central America. I remember living while I was still going to college, 2005, 6-ish, in Southern California. I was talking to people in my work who were already dreaming and planning on going to Costa Rica to buy a second home. The Californians bought it up 10 plus years ago. Panama, same thing. A lot of Chinese money, real expensive prices. The desirable parts of Central America and like the coasts of Mexico, where people really want to be, are already pricey. They've already been passed over. They're already bought up. And the much less affluent places in Central America, like Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, places where are probably not that as desirable to live anyway. And in South America, Colombia, the price is already quite high in my opinion for what you get, because of all those decades of narco money. This is my opinion. All that drug money had to go somewhere, and it went into property. They couldn't put it in banks. And when you get further south here, Peru, Bolivia, for any of us who have traveled extensively through Peru, it'll remind a lot of us of like sub-Saharan Africa. Like it's hardcore, like houses with dirt floor kind of thing. Like it still has a long way to come, in my opinion, in order to be a truly investable place, great place to visit. But to buy a second home, I'm not so sure. Same with Bolivia and Paraguay. Man, when you get further south, like Chile, Argentina, you'll be surprised that prices aren't that cheap anymore, and you're getting quite far from the U.S. if you just want to come down for a weekend. Venezuela, Ecuador, on the other hand, you're only a 4 hour quick direct flight to Miami, Quito, or Guayaquil, and that's the place where I currently live and we're going to talk about today. So let's take a look. Graham's first point, interest rates. I'm going to touch on that today. This is a chart over the last 10 years of the interest rates in the U.S. The fixed mortgage rate, 30-year. You can see how it just keeps going down and down and down. And probably not coincidentally, the housing prices over the last 10 years have gone up and up and up as the rates have gone down and down and down. But a place like Ecuador is totally different. Over the last 8, 9, 10 years, since I've been following real estate, the mortgage rates down here have not changed at all. They're still around like double. It's just a straight line. Picture a straight line across this graph, and that's what you get in Ecuador. And that's a big reason why the property prices in Ecuador are still very reasonable. They haven't bubbled up, and you can still find really good deals and desperate sellers here and there if you know how to look, right? So the deals are still out. Prices haven't blown up. Mortgage rates have remained steady and super expensive. 10, 11% you're looking at for a mortgage, right? Here's a graph from the BIS, the local Social Security system. And the rates are still around 10, 11% annual for hipotecarios, for préstamos hipotecarios, mortgages down here in Ecuador. And the rates go up the higher the amount that you borrow, like over 200 grand. You're looking at, with taxes and everything, 10, 11% still here in 2021. Pretty crazy that the mortgage rates haven't changed. Ecuador is in the midst of a runoff election they're going to have here in April 2021. And almost all the candidates, including this one, Andres Arauz, one of the leading candidates in the election, has stated that he wants to mandate lower interest rates to the banks. But what this will do, obviously, is in the short term and long term raise the property prices down here in Ecuador that have been suppressed for so long. So this could hit, and this could be a key factor for why Ecuador real estate has a good chance of doing better this year as far as appreciation than in the US. So over the next 1, 3, or 5 years, just something to think about. Another thing to think about, obviously, is the population rate growth. The biggest countries with the biggest growth rates are in Africa, as you can see by this graph. But let's look at the US, right? The population growth rate in the US and a place like the UK, you're looking at 0.5%, right? Growth in 2019, the latest year we have stats so far. But look at a place like Ecuador, almost triple that, almost quadruple, 1.7% annual population growth rate. What does this mean? Well, for a real estate investor, it might mean over the short, mid, and longer term, more demand for housing if there's more people, right? So obviously, this huge almost bubble going on in the States right now over the last 10 years might be easy loan money influenced almost 100%. Like, do we really even need that much more housing when the population growth rate is so small? Just something to think about. What goes up fast can also come down pretty fast. So let's take a look at Ecuador versus USA, right? And someone said it to me once, and it rang true because it is true. In USA, it's so organized with the MLS system. It's all been passed over. And I know with the two markets that I follow, Cleveland, Ohio, where I own, and Southwest Montana, Big Sky area, where the Big Sky Resort is. Montana, especially Southwest Montana, really beautiful, but it's been bought up like crazy by Californians over the last 10 years or so, just skyrocketing prices, just crazy. If I didn't already own something, I probably wouldn't be able to buy anything now. I'd be priced out. If I was a local, I'd be really pissed. Um, I have lived there. I went to college there, but and my parents live there now as retirees. But I don't have too many connections to the area. And Cleveland, same thing. You get these New Yorkers coming in and buying up lots of houses without ever visiting online of like 100 houses, right, in downtown Cleveland or whatever. And it's just obviously inflating prices like crazy. And and they have whole teams of people that they deal with, and to compete with these people is tough, right? These multi millionaires taking advantage of all this free easy money. Ecuador, on the other hand, has no MLS system, right? Graham, I'm talking to you. And there's no real agent culture. There are real estate agents here. There is a certification system, but you don't need it in order to sell property here. And a lot of people sell independently and prefer not to use agents on both ends of the sale. And other people do use agents. So it's just kind of hit and miss. But the beautiful thing about this is you can find deals. You can find a lot of deals. I can tell you right now that I plan on publishing on this channel. I know of several deals just in my head that literally no one else on this planet knows about, right? Literally no one else. I got them sitting up here. I plan on releasing some of them, and others, I don't know, but uh, that's the beauty of real estate searching and investing in a place like Ecuador. You can get a leg up on literally the rest of the world, all those multimillionaires and billionaires, whatever. Uh, they're not competition for you. So definitely something to think about when you invest in a place like Ecuador. Second point of wanting to diversify, and this is what he gave as his plan, as far as I understood. This year, 2021, he plans on putting 85% of his money into the S&P 500 index fund stock, which I agree with. I think it's a great idea. I'm not one of those doomsayers that thinks the whole thing's going to come crashing down. It might, but every 6 years there's a correction of 25% or more. It's how the markets work. Every 2 years there's a correction of at least 10%. I mean, so yeah, if you keep being a doomsdayer long enough, you'll eventually be right. But in the long run, what do markets usually do? Go up and up and up, just like they have. So, in my opinion, just go with history on this one, especially if you don't need the money in the short term. So, yeah, I agree with that, right? But let's keep looking. 15% of his money in individual stocks. Okay, I also agree with that. I'm an investor in the stock market myself, pretty heavily. Startups, angel investing, I don't do much of that. It's just hard for me to get your money out. Maybe when I get up to another cash flow level. Uh, he didn't mention bonds, but that's another way you could diversify. Silver, gold. He mentioned he owns a little bit of silver in another video I watched of his. Um, it's a possibility, one way to diversify. And he also mentioned he wants to put 1% of his money in Bitcoin, right? Which is another idea. But what's the problem with all of this, right? The problem is all your money is in the market, right? It's in the markets at pretty much the whims of the Fed, big bankers, right? Is that how you really want pretty much all of your wealth tied to what a few big bankers decide, or the Fed or whatever, that just jolt around the whole market? If you look back in March of last year, the whole thing just fell out um, at once. And that could scare a lot of us into doing the wrong thing, which is selling right at the bottom, and losing a lot of money. So, I mean, the point of diversification is to kind of level out the volatility, right? So, one thing you could do, if you were a guy like Graham, why not, or American, why not try international real estate, right? It's not as interconnected nation to nation as like the world stock markets are. It always surprises me how the European stock market goes down or up, and so does the American market at the same time. Like, what do they really have in common, really to be moving in sync like that, but they do, right? So the markets are all kind of interconnected. And when you invest in international real estate, you're kind of investing off the grid, and of that interlinked market, world market system. And number two would be, it's one of those last places you can put your money where people, the IRS, whoever wants to try to take it from you, uh, would be hard pressed to even find it or know it exists, right? Not saying they couldn't, because I'm sure they could, but the IRS, come down to a local municipal in Ecuador to dig up property paperwork on you. How would they even know you bought there unless you declared it? It's complicated. And also, owning international real estate, unlike a stock or a piece of paper, uh, you know, it provides income. It can provide enjoyment if you actually like the place. If you don't like the place, I wouldn't suggest buying there. And you can enjoy it, and it can provide a sort of income if you want it to. And his last point, time value for money, or his time, he's got a lot of other stuff going on. I get it, but um, down here in these foreign countries, you do have to invest a little bit more time in the search and purchase process, because as we're about to see, it's not as simple as in the US, and that's a big reason why it's not as passed over in the US, and why there's more deals available. But once you're done with the purchase, the holding costs, as we're about to see some real life examples, are so low. A lot of us can just keep the place vacant if we want and not even worry about it, right? It's not like the US with really hardcore property taxes, or buying a condo in the US. I had one recently where I paid $800 a month in association dues. Didn't like it, sold out of that. A condo that I own in Guayaquil, valued at about $80,000. How much do I pay in holding costs? Now, I do rent this out to tourists short term through websites like Airbnb. Um, that will cover more on this channel, but it is something I highly recommend if you do own property and don't live in Ecuador. But like, look at my holding costs; they're so low. I pay like $100 a month association fee in a nice building in a nice area of Guayaquil with elevators, full-time 24-hour guard and receptionists, uh, an administration staff, a pool, a gym, a lounge area I can use if I want. And what I pay in the $100, it includes the water as well. There's no gas because everything inside the apartment is with electricity, and I pay about $60 a month in electricity when the place is occupied, and that's running AC. If you buy in the highlands of Ecuador, that electric bill could be 10, $15 a month probably. The internet, I pay $22 a month with this provider called TV Cable, and there's a lot of them, and it just discounts from my account automatically every month. The taxes are incredible. I pay about $74 a year property taxes for this condo in Guayaquil, and there's an extra sewer charge that you pay as well once a year. It's like $20, right? Crazy, super cheap. So yeah, for a lot of people who have the means, you could buy in a place like Ecuador, pay these pittance of holding costs, and just keep it vacant if you don't want to bother with it. Just enjoy it when you come down. Keep it furnished, and enjoy it when you come down once every couple of years or whatever. But yeah, and you just let it sit, and hold your value for you, and kind of help fight inflation. Also, insurance. This is a quote I got. Ecuador is not a very insurance prone country. A lot of people don't even have it. I haven't had it a lot. And this is my current plan here, up to $100,000 in the case of fire or earthquake or any kind of calamity. $100,000 in coverage. I pay $22 a month, also deducted automatically from my bank account.